Hi, welcome everyone to the 8th ever Football Foes and Fandom Woes podcast with myself, Austin Barkley, a Tottenham fan, former professional footballer, football coach, PE teacher and co-host, and fellow football coach and PE teacher and Arsenal fan. All Norman talk all things football. Now we're going to stay with the World Cup and we're going to stay predominantly with England in today's podcast. We're going to look at the overall tournament and a series of questions we'll run through. And then we'll sort of analyse the positives, I guess, and the negatives of this tournament that we've just seen with England. So I think one of the major issues is obviously the semi-final and Tuchel's decisions. Now, there's been a lot of anger from fans, and probably rightly so, towards Tuchel and his decisions that he made. My first question really is, do you think he can recover from, because the media scrutiny and the fans' scrutiny and anger and frustration has really come to the fore over these last few days. It hasn't really dissented. When I've been watching a few and listening to things like TalkSport, there's still a lot of angry fans out there and pundits and whatever. So do you think he can recover from this?
I mean, it's football, so he can recover from it, yeah, absolutely. But whether he should recover from it is probably a kind of sub-question off of what you've asked. Look, football's brutal when emotions are high. Emotions sell papers, emotions sell clicks. So, it's all very raw at the moment. Like I said, look, football, if he goes and beats Spain in the Nations League and then follows it up with Czech Republic, follows it up with Croatia, and has a good 6 games against 3 very difficult teams, yes, he can recover. And if he can build on a more fluid, aggressive, attacking form of setup, should we say, a bit more like he did against France, which I know was a bit of a charitable exhibition game in many ways, but they were still very ruthless. I think we do have to highlight that. And if anything, probably I'd like to think he's learned some lessons from that 30 minutes of absolute madness, which, like you said in the last pod, is scandalous. That 30 minutes is almost so difficult to come back from. So I'm trying to play devil's advocate and see it from both sides. I don't think he should, and we'll come on to the reasons why in a minute. But when you've got someone like Pep Guardiola talking to the Italian FA at the moment, I see Guardiola as one of ours. He's been in our Premier League nurturing our talent for 10 years. There is no better manager. I know international football and club football are different, but the principles that are relatively similar, albeit not on a day-to-day. If Guardiola is all of a sudden available, the FA should be going, listen, Mr. Tuchel, thanks, but it's Guardiola. You only get one opportunity sometimes to stick or twist with such an elite manager like Guardiola, and he is an enigma. Like, he is the pinnacle. So for me, if he's available, thanks Tuchel, you've done well. You got us to 3rd place, which is our greatest achievement since '66 on paper. Should have been more, which we'll talk about in a minute. But I would be batting down the door for Guardiola.
Mate, I totally agree. Finding out today that Italy are potentially talking to him about him becoming their next manager. I am strongly in the opinion that the next manager should be English. However, there aren't a load of overall candidates at the moment, unless they've got someone like what Spain have done and Argentina have done that they can bring up through the ranks who they think very highly of. I don't know if Eddie Howe, he's probably the strongest English candidate at the moment, whether he would want to take it. Maybe with a turmoil at Newcastle and seeing a lot of their players going and potentially Guimaraes leaving as well, that might be something you could be thinking about. But like you just said there, Guardiola, surely you would think if England came in for him, he would pick England over Italy at the moment. All due respect to Italy, they haven't got the players and the teams that they've had in the past. When I was growing up, Italy were always one of the strongest teams in the world. 80s, 90s, early 90s, even going up to early 2000s. They've obviously struggled over these last 10 years. I know they won the Euros at ours, which again is a bit of a sore point for us, considering that we've been so much a better team than them over the last 10 plus years. So you would think, like you just said, Guardiola managing this country, knowing pretty much all the England players either haven't played for him or played against him. If I was him, you would want to manage England in the Euros, the next Euros, with being a home tournament. I totally agree, mate.
Spain.
And potentially next World Cup in Spain. Yeah, I'm sure he would. If he's thinking about becoming an international manager, then surely England, like you said, have got to be all over that.
It's a blank check job, isn't it? It's a blank
Yeah,
check
no,
job.
yeah. I mean, like I said, I was quite surprised when I saw that today that Italy were potentially talking to him, because the way he was talking at the end of Man City, he was going to leave football for quite a while. But obviously, I guess that will probably suit him, international football, just dipping his toes in now and again and having that block of maybe like 6-7 weeks, like intense football, and then having that break in between. So yeah, I think if he's available, then we got to go and get him. Personally, for me, Tuchel, so many things he said before he took the position, and I know we covered that in the last pod, in terms of criticising Southgate, saying that we had no clear identity, we were too afraid to lose, we weren't playing on the front foot, all of those things, and they were absolutely compounded in that 30 minutes against Argentina, where he had the opportunity to really stamp his authority on what he wanted to do and stamp his identifier in those 30 minutes. And whether that worked or not, if we went more attacking and we still got beaten, fair enough. I know it would have hurt, but we would have held our hands up. But the fact that he kept bringing on defender after defender, totally went against everything that he had sort of said he was going to do. And I've heard pundits say, well, in that situation, we all make mistakes. But he was brought in really not to make a mistake in that situation. He was brought in for that last 30 minutes. That was the time he was brought in for. I don't think there's anyone who was watching that would have made those decisions. Even like people who watch the game but aren't really involved in the game, don't have coaching badges, or just watch Premier League games at the weekend. I don't think anyone thought, you know what we need? We need to take off one of our most effective players in Anthony Gordon and put a centre-back on, and then go 5 at the back and end up putting another centre-back on. So we had 4 centre-backs on. And like you said before in the last podcast, if we'd gone into extra time, what the hell are we supposed to do for the next 30 minutes?
And to compound all of that, what you just alluded to about the subs, we then go and watch Bukayo Saka put on an absolute masterclass, which we'll wait for that one. But again, like you alluded to, a mistake is going up to the hydration break after we've scored and just dropping a little bit too deep and then rectifying it. A mistake is making one sub that you just go, or maybe I shouldn't have made that one. But to have made 4 of the 5, maybe 3 of the 5 tactically, I mean, there's getting it wrong, and there is, that is a crime to football. Like there's no two ways about it. If there was a sentence for crimes to football, he would be serving a life sentence with the keys thrown away, because 12% possession for 30 minutes. Not talking about, Man City playing Rag-ass Rovers on a Sunday. Do you know what I mean? Them just going, the golfing class is massive. Golf we saw once again against Spain. Argentina didn't turn up to play England to play football. We allowed them to just play football because we got it wrong. Spain, they turned up again, pure thuggery. That was what their sole basis of the last 2 games have been, is to just avoid yellow cards and clout the opposition. And it felt like taking a medal of honor or a badge of honor was, getting someone injured, or a yellow card or red card avoidance. But then they did the same again against Spain. And Spain, which we spoke about, this English DNA of we don't have players that can keep possession. Absolute nonsense. And Spain proved against Argentina, just keep recycling the ball. There's not something on, come back, we go again. And people say that's boring. And I have overlooked Spain, and I have to hold my hands up. Previous pods, I didn't see it. I didn't see really what all the chat was about with Spain this tournament. But to go a whole tournament letting in 1 goal, that was the basis. The foundation of everything they did was be solid, keep possession, and as long as we have the ball, they cannot score. And they became more ruthless as the tournament went on. I mean, they had 2 goals disallowed last night. In theory, could have been 3-0. And their ability, as we said, their retention of the ball, just what was it, over 22 shots, something like that last night?
I mean, Argentina, like,
remarkable.
When you watch that final, it made it even more galling for me that we weren't in that final, because we would have given Spain so much more of a better game. It would have been so much closer. We would have had attempts on goal. I'm not saying we would have beaten them. We probably wouldn't have beaten them, to be honest. Argentina, what did they do? They didn't have 1 shot on target until extra time, did they?
They didn't even have it over 117th minute. And what, by the way, that is as we spoke about yesterday, that is a player that's burgled a career based on his dad's name. He
Yeah.
is not a footballer. He is just a thug. He is outright like he's just him
Well,
that
to be honest,
Paredes
he cost them because he was
track
marking
his
that
man,
Torres. Yeah, he didn't track his man for the
pulling his socks up,
volley.
wasn't
And then he also had an opportunity to put a cross. I know he put on a decent cross where they nearly scored from. He had an earlier chance before the end of the game where he was in that same position. He could have put a good cross in where they could have potentially scored. And his cross was terrible. And for me, he is so poor. That Simeone, and he's definitely had a helping hand there because in the game against England, he was shocking. And when he came on yesterday, that chance he had, I mean, his technique for that volley was absolutely.
But who does
You
he play
made
for at
sure,
club level? Who
yeah, I
does he
know.
play
He
for at
plays
club
for his
level?
dad. And
There you
yeah,
go, right?
yeah.
Says everything.
So, I mean, with Tuchel, obviously the third, fourth playoff game, where it was, I know England won it, which is great. Don't get me wrong. We scored loads of goals and there's loads of goals for us, but it was kind of an exhibition game to a certain extent. But the galling thing, like you just said, is seeing Saka out there absolutely flying, totally fit, come out after the game and said he was fit and ready to play. I mean, he kind of indicated he was more than ready to play and wanted to play more throughout the tournament. So all this
I've
about
never seen him look so frustrated.
I know his Achilles and that. Obviously, he's worked through it, and he was absolutely brilliant in that game. Absolutely staggering, like
And
we
yet,
said in our last podcast. He never even came on in that semi-final.
and yet
One
they
of
were
England's
talking
best
about.
players.
So just to say on that, we said as well, didn't we? That they were saying about his injuries, and then they play him for full 90. They're saying Declan Rice is lagging and should have.
Oh,
Let's be brutally honest, should have been on for the full 90 in that semi-final, and
yeah.
potentially, I still believe he'd have been in that position to have nullified the Enzo Fernandez shot. And then he goes and plays pretty much the whole game on Saturday. I mean,
I
superb
couldn't
goal, great
believe it.
performance. But
Yeah, I couldn't
if
believe when I
you're
saw his
asked,
name in the starting lineup
if you're Arteta,
because I
you're
just
raging
thought,
at that.
yeah, but not even that. Like we were told that he wasn't really fit and he was just getting through the games, and then we got the third, fourth playoff game, which I know there's a bronze medal, but it wasn't. I mean, I know we finished third and everyone's going, it's the best we've done since 1966. In 1990, Robson never really took the game that seriously. Okay, he fielded quite a weakened team in the third, fourth. Southgate did the same when we got to 2018. So I think that's a bit misleading. I think Tuchel's trying to jump on that a little bit just to try and claw something back. It's interesting for that game, though, that when his name was called out, all the England fans booed him. So he would have known that. And also when he was shown on the big screen, England fans booed him. So he knows, well, if he didn't know, he will know now that he's in a really low place in terms of what the England fans think of him. I think one of the comments he's made, I know we covered in last pod, the England DNA has obviously gone down like awfully with everyone. And the fact that he's not kind of shown any contrition, sort of shown any remorse in sort of saying, well, you know what, at the moment I thought that was the best decision, but in hindsight I realised that it wasn't. He's kind of blamed everyone else. He's said the players were too passive. Well, if they're too passive, you as a manager, you need to change it. You had that hydration break to change the momentum, to tell them to get up, like to stop dropping so deep. Then you had the opportunity with your subs to put on positive substitutions to affect the game and change the momentum and get us back on the front foot. So all that he's saying about us not winning enough duels, being too passive, dropping too deep, as a coach, you've got to try and rectify it and change it. That's what your job is. That's what you're getting paid $8 million a year for. And that's another thing that I think that potentially we should be looking at someone else. You're paying him $8 million a year to, in that situation that we had, to make the right decision. I see pundits like to defend him, saying, well, he's human, he's made a mistake. But he was brought in as an elite manager and paid a hell of a lot of money to not make that mistake.
You don't get the opportunity.
I'm not saying that if he made the right subs and then we lost, we understand that. But to make those decisions in that game, just for me, that was criminal. And like you said, it's the worst decision I've ever seen in watching England. Now, I wasn't around in 1970, but in the 1970 World Cup, England got to the quarterfinals. We're playing Germany. We were 2-0 up. Alf Ramsey, I mean, he's won the World Cup. He took off Bobby Charlton with 20 minutes to go, and it cost England. And he got a lot of stick for that at the time, saying that if he hadn't taken him off, we would have got through to the semi-final because he was marking Beckenbauer, and apparently, like, he was marking him out of the game. They took him off, and then Beckenbauer influenced, and they lost 3-2 in extra time. But for me, Like, if Southampton won the World Cup, you can kind of forgive maybe a mistake like that, but I find it really hard. And I think it's going to be really difficult to see him at the next England game, picking the England squad and the players, because they kept talking about the camaraderie and everything. But from what Saka said, he was obviously very frustrated. Kane come out after the third and fourth game and said there were mistakes and like he needs to learn from mistakes that were made. So obviously, again, he's the most diplomatic person ever. The players would have discussed it amongst themselves and felt that was the wrong decision all
Mark
day
Gay
long.
came out.
He's come out and said, couldn't understand why we're dropping Sadiq and making notices. So there's going to be a lot of, in terms of within themselves, it's a chance missed. Kane might not get another chance at World Cup. He might be too old. And you're going to look at that and think, what, why? Why did you do that?
The thing with elite international management as well, different your day-to-day club stuff, which Tuchel's obviously used to. You can make a mistake in a game, you get another opportunity. In international football, you get paid the
No.
big money because you are deemed the best to make the best decisions in games to get through one-off games. That's the biggest difference from international football to club football. You lose a game, you got another chance. You can make up 3 points. International football is brutal, and I'm not sure even just in English history, I'm not sure in many international football games in major competitions have I seen other managers from other teams make such decisions that have had
No, I
such
don't think I've
major
ever seen anything
impacts on
like it,
games.
mate. I've never seen
It was
anything like
almost,
it.
I'm not even going to sit here and say it was a surrender. It was just as if, like, who are we to compare ourselves or even to really know more than or feel like we know more than Tuchel? But I genuinely don't believe many people would have made the same decisions, the same subs as Tuchel. And that, I don't think everyone can be wrong. It's always easy, isn't it?
No.
That whatever happens, someone's got another opinion. Like, that's the joys of life. But so many people watching the same game and literally ripping their TV down, going, "What are you playing at? Get up the pitch. Don't make those subs. You've got a world class player in Saka. I'm not just going to hone in on Saka. There's other players. The Mainoo scenario. That's another
I was going to
management.
come on to him.
Which was that comment. Guardiola is living day to day proof of what England are trying to be based on that mantra. He plays it, lives it, does it, and he would have those players that he would see as risk averse, whereas Tuchel clearly saw it as too big a risk to take because they weren't physical enough or athletic enough to cover ground. When actually risk averse is keeping the ball, as Spain proved. Their players physically. We'll talk about players I know at the end, but Pau Caprasi, or however you say it, the 19-year-old Barcelona centre-back.
Yeah.
19 years old. What is age? Lamine Yamal, 19 years old. You've got one of the smallest midfields you could ever dream of.
Well,
again, and
I was going to say, like, that DNA comment, really, that's so insulting. Do not turn around and talk about our DNA. Do not turn around and talk about we couldn't keep possession in that last 20, 30 minutes. When you've not put on someone like Mainoo who can keep possession, you not put someone like Eze who can keep possession, Rashford, Saka. You don't tell me them players can't receive the ball in tight situations and look after the ball. We've got players like Palmer, Foden, White, Wharton that you didn't bring, who are all very, very comfortable looking after the ball. So don't turn around and say that after you've selected a squad that, like you said, have a certain profile, that are athletic, are quick, strong, big, powerful. Even when he was talking about...
I have no problem with that, by the way.
Yeah, but if you're going to go with that profile, then don't turn around and say that we didn't have those players that can look after the ball, because they were there. You just chose not to. Yeah, and Trent as well. But even in that semi-final, they said, like, why did you pick Rodgers over Saka? And he said, well, he's physically big, he's strong. I just had a feeling like he's more powerful. So those are the players that you wanted within your squad. They're not always... I mean, Rodgers is a very technical player, don't get me wrong, but a lot of the smaller creative players you didn't pick because that wasn't the profile of player you wanted. So that was really insulting. That was just him trying to pass the blame. But that's another comment I think England fans and a lot of pundits are going to find it very, very difficult to forgive him for that.
And I think he proved that, didn't he, with Ivan Toney starting over Watkins. You're not telling me that Ollie Watkins should not have been starting against France on Saturday based
I
on
mean, we talk about the squad. I mean, what was the point of bringing Ivan Toney? You could have brought a Foden. You could have brought a Palmer because you just never used him. What was the point really of bringing Ollie? I felt sorry for him. Like, there were times in the Norway game, the Mexico game, and the game against Argentina where Kane, like, he'd run his race. He was shattered. Like, for the last 20 minutes of each of those games, he could have easily brought on Ollie Watkins with a bit of pace for running behind. Southgate started to do it in the last Euros, and he came on with great effect. He scored the winner against Holland, and he started to run in behind and push teams back. So what was the point of bringing him? What was the point of bringing Toney?
And then they brought him on the other day, and where did they put him? Left wing. And then he gets turned over straight away. They go and score. We've made quite a big thing about players playing in their positions. When you're at a World Cup, you select players to play in their positions. At times, they need to adapt. Of course they do. It's football, and they should be adept to be able to at least do a job. And we shouldn't have to expect these players to be the world-class player in an alternative position to their natural position. But
So for me, he's picked a squad. And throughout that squad, throughout the tournament, he's then thought Mainoo looks like he doesn't rate or fancy him. I mean, Mainoo's treatment's been absolutely disgusting. What was the point of bringing him? Brilliant young player. Yeah. Totally disillusioned. Obviously doesn't rate him. Doesn't really fancy Ollie Watkins. Doesn't rate, I look at Ivan Toney. It says 3 players he's brought that he hasn't played. He brought Chalobah. I mean, really, what was the point of bringing Chalobah when we needed a right back?
Well,
and then
I know it's hard to come on, but
I'd offered Madueke, and now Madueke the last 2 games didn't even get a look in. So he's obviously thought, you know what? And do you know what? Another thing that he said that I just could not believe. He said, throughout the tournament, we didn't play as well as we did in qualification. And I'm like, am I hearing that right? In qualification, we didn't play anyone. Like, with all due respect, we played in a group that we should come top and beat those teams quite comfortably.
And the friendlies, by the way, we were awful.
I know, and he kept comparing it to, like, qualification. And I'm just, surely you could see you're an elite manager that these teams, the standard's going to be better. They haven't qualified. The teams that qualified are going to be stronger and it's going to be harder. Just, am I hearing this right? I think we should talk about Mainoo. I mean, there was I saw a bit of a pod with Paul Scholes and Nicky Butt, and Nicky Butt apparently sent Mainoo a message saying, listen, if he asks you to play in the last game, just say you're injured, because he's basically taken a mick out of you. Like, the fact that you haven't come on in some of them games and the way that he spoke about you and said that you're not training properly. And there's rumours that he was training absolutely fine. So there's obviously an issue that Tuchel has with Mainoo for whatever reason. Maybe Mainoo's a brilliant young player, 21. He's going to be leaving the World Cup thinking, well, I'm probably not going to get selected again for the next 2 years, because he clearly didn't want to play him, did he? Even though he's crying out for him.
I mean, we've got to, with Mainoo, we've got to be, and again, we've got to focus on every individual and their stories, right? Amorim didn't take to Mainoo at all. Tuchel hasn't taken to Mainoo at all. Carrick loves Mainoo.
Yeah, loves him.
So is this, I'll play for the Man U DNA type people? So like you said, the Butts, the Scholes, the Carricks, etc. Mainoo's a precocious talent. Like, he is a very talented.
Definitely. He played in Euros. He's done really well.
He was one of our best players. Still young, years ahead of him. Finds himself probably unluckily in a tough area of the pitch where we've got a lot of talent on paper. But he definitely offers, if we want to talk about the English DNA, the ability to keep ball in tight spaces.
Definitely.
Is one of, if not his biggest attribute.
Yeah.
Possibly can play a 6'8", can possibly play 8'10". He's a very effective central player who covers ground well and has a very good eye for a pass, and can pop up on the odd occasion, as we've seen previously, with a goal here and there. But to play devil's advocate, Amorim didn't fancy him, Tuchel didn't fancy him. So can we take it as he is this kind of angelic English midfielder? Look, we've got to get behind the players, and we want the best players in those teams. And I do think managers have to find a way to manage them. and they have to find a way to work with them, as Mainoo has to do with the manager and vice versa. But it's about getting your best players in World Cups and your best players in Euros. You
Well,
can't have too
yeah.
many enigmas. You can't have too many X Factor players in terms of, like, you couldn't have 11 Mbappes. You could ability wise, but personality wise as well. Tournament play needs that as well.
For me, though, did he pick a squad of players that he thought he could handle and not players that potentially could challenge him? Because you have to think about
He had a safe squad.
why some of them players got selected, and then throughout the tournament, he probably realised, you know what, you're not quite at the level I expected you to be. So I think he's going to go away and look at that and think potentially he's made some mistakes with his squad selection. I think we all felt that when the initial squad was selected. I mean, we're looking at players like Palmer, Foden, Walton, Maguire, Trent, 5 players potentially should have been in the squad. 5 players I think would have been selected in most other squads in the world. What's going to happen with them players? That's like a worry for me. If Tuchel stays on, are those players, when the first squad is announced in September and they're playing well for their clubs, if they're playing well, are they going to be recalled?
Trent,
For
no.
me, yeah, I mean, I was just about to say Trent, which is shocking, mate. It's shocking.
But that alone is a discussion. If you are ruling out such players as an FA, body association, you've got to be challenging Tuchel, going, do you tell me your plans now for all these players? Because every
that's what I
player
mean.
should be available.
When they have this review, they got to ask them questions. So why didn't you select Trent? Everyone wants to know, why did you not select Palmer? Because he talks about that maybe they didn't play well enough in the season, but Palmer in the Euros was brilliant. In the season before was brilliant. In the Club World Cup was the
Bellingham had a
main
terrible
man.
season.
They got that level of ability and quality that we were crying out for. Let's be honest. In the big games, when we needed that level of ability, they weren't there.
But let's be brutally honest, though. We didn't lose that game because of the squad. We lost that game because of those decisions.
No.
So we still had a squad befitting and good enough to at least get to the final. I'm not saying we'd have beaten Spain like you said earlier, and we'll never know. But that squad that we had was good enough to beat Argentina. But Tuchel screwed it up. And so, again, if we're all what we've said in this past 30 minutes already, it has to be lights out for Tuchel. Listen, he's an elite manager. I do believe that. And he was brought in for the right reasons. But in his 30 minutes of absolute need to be the best version of an elite manager and equally justify the 8 million pay packet, you flopped. And that ain't good enough. And for that reason, even more so, like you said before, going into a home Euros, we need the country with us. They've got to be our 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th man and woman. You're not going to get that, I don't think, with Tuchel. Yeah, look, as I've always said before, redemption, managers do get it. But this is sitting at a high stakes table and you're putting your mortgage on something. I don't think either of us could look down the camera and go, I could put my mortgage on Tuchel being the best person to take us into that Euros, especially if a certain Mr. Guardiola is chatting to the Italian FA. Now, it's hard to, again, like I said, club football and international football, 2 different things, but there's no better manager in world football at any level than Guardiola.
No.
If he's available, you've got to go blank check, all in. This is what we've got.
Yeah, exactly, mate. You've got to go and talk to him, haven't you? If I was the FA and I heard he was available, we need to go and talk to him. Because
if you don't talk to him, it is criminal.
Yeah. The FA, at the very top, I always thought they're quite weak. It was when Roy Hodgson was the last manager in the World Cup. Was that Brazil? When we got knocked out in the group stage after the first 2 games, or was it South Africa? And then we were out after 2 games. They didn't sack him, and then we had the debacle of getting knocked out against Iceland in the Euros. After that, 2 of the lowest. Well, I mean, the Iceland game was the lowest that England's ever been. I think you would expect the FA, if Guardiola is available, that has got to be a conversation that they need to be having amongst themselves and thinking like, let's give him a 2-year deal for the Euros and let's pay him and get rid of Tuchel. I should never give him that 2-year extension anyway, should they? They should have seen how he was going to do in the World Cup.
But that's the naivety of a lot of these associations. I've seen it recently in the cricket with McCullum. They gave him a land to do the test matches, ODIs and T20s. And, it's it's such a big job doing all three formats in cricket. You see it with Borthwick, with England in the rugby. You know, we've kind of stagnated at international level. I know we actually had a good result, funnily enough, against Argentina on Saturday, even potentially with a contentious try right at the end, which would have possibly levelled it up. But the English FA have got a history of being pretty weak with the big decisions. And again,
Yeah.
you look at those winning countries, they're ruthless. They do everything and anything to win, and that's that
Well,
winner's mentality. And
yeah, yeah.
that may
A lot of the
be
managers from the World Cup have been sacked, didn't they? I think
there you go.
generally nearly
Well,
half of
some of
them
them
have
been
gone.
sacked in the World Cup.
Yeah, yeah, I know.
You
Yeah.
know, it's
Right.
yeah.
Anyways, I think let's move on and look at some of England's best players in the tournament. Obviously, the standout, without a doubt, is Jude Bellingham. I think if England get to the final, he wins the player of the tournament for me,
Mm.
because I think he's literally carried us, not just him, but in the big moments, he's came to the fore. I think he's been absolutely outstanding. The most goals from an England player ever in a World Cup, playing from midfield as well. And the quality of his goals. The last goal he scored against France was just majestic. Absolutely brilliant throughout. But he has to be, obviously, he's our main player going forward.
But not world class.
He's a superstar. He's an absolute superstar. He's one of the best in the world for me now. You've got the best players in the world: Mbappe, Bellingham, Elise.
His transfer market fiat. If we're talking Elise at 250 million. They're talking about. If you're talking,
He's better than Elise for me.
so
300 million.
what you're saying? 300, 350
Yeah,
these
if
days?
we're looking at 300 million. If Tonali's been brought for 110 million and Anderson, to be fair, was I thought really, really good
116,
for
yeah.
England. 106. But Bellingham's like, he's got that. He's the best midfielder or the best English player with the most technical ability I've seen since Gaza, for me.
Yeah.
He's got that magic in he can change a game in an instance like Gaza could do. Gaza was more of an 8 rather than playing a 10, but Gaza could beat people to create an opportunity or find an amazing pass. And Bellingham's just got that as well.
And I 100% agree with everything you've just said. He's a world beater on his day. I love for him that he's been able to use this platform in the World Cup just to remind everyone that, listen, I
Yeah,
had an
absolutely.
injury hit season at Real Madrid. That was a tough gig for a 22-year-old at the time, 23 this tournament.
Yeah.
To go through that, again, Birmingham to Dortmund to Real Madrid. I mean, if you ain't got if you ain't got talent, you ain't having that path, right? One of the things in that semi-final, based on exactly what you just said, and we've spoken about clutch moments, we've spoken about the goals he scored, the assists he got, the ability to drive us up the pitch. That one moment, and I don't think it's only just resonated with me based on what you've just said. When he drove out, and he was the only player, drove out from the box, didn't he?
Yeah, I know.
Went all the way down the wing, and then 3 of those Argentinian players were able.
Yeah.
He ran out of legs, turned him over on the halfway line. And I think in that moment, a lot of those England players that were still sitting in the box, waiting for another wave of attack, probably looked at that and thought, well, if Bellingham's, unable to kind of relieve us of this pressure and get us up the pitch, what else have we got? If Tuchel ain't going to change it, because like you said, when you have certain players in squads that you really look for that inspiration, don't you? And Bellingham, Kane are those players in our team. You could argue Kane. I'd throw Saka in there as well. You look at France, you look at that front four really, but Mbappe, Elise, those magic moments, whatever that is, be it a mazy run or a goal, an assist, just driving up the pitch, a great dribble, whatever it is, a big tackle if you're an elite defender. I think that deflated us a little bit. I think mentally sometimes you don't notice moments that don't seem big, but they can be absolutely demoralizing for a team.
Yeah.
And I think actually when you do look back and if you really analyze that moment, that must have hurt, just going, he's coming back, and our best player who's got the ability to, as we saw against France with fresh legs, before the goal, he toyed with him, didn't he? He ran the whole leg for the pitch.
I know he done that.
And almost
nearly scored a very similar goal, didn't he?
There you go. So it's he's really come and just showed everyone again, look, this is what I'm about. And for an English player, it has always been a bit kind of taboo, isn't it? Going abroad and we English players abroad. It's a bit of a weird thing. And obviously, there's been many great players. Keegan, God rest his soul. That's
definitely.
a huge loss to football today. Obviously, people like Waddle, Hoddle, who've gone abroad and done great things along with others. Nowadays, I actually think it's a really good thing for their progression, especially early doors, the German leagues, the
Yeah,
Dutch
yeah.
leagues,
I
etc.
think it's a great pathway for young
Yeah.
players.
And then, as I said, Real Madrid are reaping the benefits. I'd love Bellingham in the Premier League. We want all our best players in our league. But, if you're wanted by Real Madrid,
Yeah, exactly.
it just says
I mean,
everything. And he's going to have a massive
definitely.
season next year,
Yeah.
as long as he's fresh.
Mourinho, I mean, Mourinho's come in. He must be rubbing his hands, isn't he? He's seen Mbappe. He's been incredible for France. And um, obviously, Bellingham step up and be absolutely majestic. They've got, obviously, Vinny Jr. So,
Goal.
yeah, I mean, they've got such a phenomenal... Trent and all
You got
these
the
other
young lad, that
players.
Arda Güler, for the Turkish sensation.
So he's gone from managing a team in Turkey, and he's now gone to the biggest,
Well, he
arguably
was
the
at
biggest club in
Benfica,
the
wasn't
world,
he? He's just
with
come from Benfica.
some of the best players in the world. He's got to be rubbing his hands, thinking, "Do you know what? I'm back." I'm
Did
back.
you see the thing with Mourinho this season?
No,
So obviously,
he didn't
like you
get
said,
beat, did he? Yeah,
exactly what I was going to say. He went invincible with Benfica and finished
Yeah.
third. How's your luck? It's a remarkable stat. It's a bit like I was watching the darts earlier, and Smith was playing darts, and Smith won 10-6, averaging 100, and darts averaged 104.5. You just go, well, how's your luck? How does that?
Yeah.
That shouldn't happen, because that is a remarkable achievement, by the way, and you got nothing for it.
Yeah, I know.
Mental. But look, again, he's gonna rub his hands with someone like Bellingham. You've almost got a goal before you walk on a pitch.
Definitely. I mean, I think Real Madrid are going to be back under Mourinho next year properly.
I do.
I know
Yeah.
they keep them players fit. Who do you think England's biggest breakout star of the tournament was?
Our biggest. I don't want to sound biased. I think Jed's had a serious.
I was going to say,
he's had a serious step up.
Yeah. I think Anderson and Jed, for me, are the two that have really come to the fore. Even Jed more so, because there was a lot of people wondering whether he should have been selected. And
it looks like he's going to Inter.
Yeah, I know he's taking his game to another level. And yeah, a bit gutting as a Tottenham fan that now we're going to probably see that he's going to Inter. And to be fair, I mean, I don't blame him, because Porro's playing at right back. He's going to be the starter. He was a star under De Zerbi. He liked...
what a tournament he's had as well, by the way.
Yeah, fantastic. He's really improved over the last season. Yeah. And he's got two now players at left back, so he needs to play. Jed needs to play, so I don't blame him if Inter come in. What a massive club to go and play for as well.
Strike while the iron's hot, isn't it? They know what he's about, and they obviously like it. So
I think that's a good signing for him. There's also rumours of Everton as well, but I think if you've got a choice between, no disrespect to Everton, but yeah, Everton and Inter Milan.
Liverpool's the other one that were supposedly toying with the idea, should we say.
Okay.
But I think Inter Milan is probably best fit for Jed.
Okay, yeah. Yes, I think Anderson, Jed, two of our biggest.
I'll mention Gordon as well. I'll throw Gordon out as well. And the reason I throw Gordon out is just what we spoke about early on. We saw a very different side to him as a person initially, and he grew through that tournament. And I started to see why Barcelona, have maybe 65 million is actually could be a snip by the end of that season.
You look at all the transfer fees going now, then I think you might be right. Oh yeah, fair play to Gordon. He really grew into the tournament and done really well. Looking at the squad, maybe not for the Euros, potentially, but moving into the World Cup, who do you think is going to be like last goodbyes in terms of players that aren't, maybe not make Euros, but probably definitely aren't going to make the World Cup?
Possibly Pickford. I think Dean Henderson certainly, again, I know it was a bit of a charitable exhibition match, whatever. But but equally, it's still an opportunity for people to put down a marker, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Henderson's been out there 5-6 weeks with the squad, and he's come off the back of a great season, Conference League winner with Crystal Palace. Fantastic, really, really good. Made some really good saves. Distribution we spoke about. I felt I was a lot more comfortable with ball at feet with Henderson than Pickford.
His distribution was excellent in that game.
Super.
Yeah.
So Henderson probably, Stones possibly.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying the link that supposedly Arsenal are looking at him at the moment. I think
it's a good signing.
Be a great one season, possibly leadership, backup for potentially coming in for Saliba again. Obviously, with Stones, it's keeping him fit and off the out the physio room. But probably he will be there. Maybe last one. Obviously Henderson.
I think Henderson surely is going to become now like. I mean, he might still be playing for Brentford and playing, but you can't. I'd be surprised if he's selecting the squad for the Euros. I think I see him. If they brought him in as a coach, I think that would be the way to go forward with him.
Yeah. You listen to all the players, and you've seen other countries look at retired footballers, should we say.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying Jordan Henderson is going to retire anytime soon. He's still got a contract with Brentford. He's still, doing a job in the Premier League at his ripe old age of 35, whatever he is now, 36. Whatever we think of him as a footballer, whatever we think, every player is waxing lyrical about Jordan Henderson. Every player, and it's not waxing lyrical in a jovial way or a jesty way. It's in the way of absolute professionalism,
Yeah.
leadership. I'm going to throw it out there. Is he a potential long-term manager, be it club level? Is he potentially one that they look to fast track into England previously?
Yeah.
I'd love to know what probably the listeners think of that.
I think, the players seem to love him. When Jude Bellingham scored his final goal against France, the first person he ran over to was Henderson, wasn't it?
And that's quite damning a Tuchel again.
Yeah, I know. What was I say about Tuchel when the players are running over to Henderson?
Yeah, it's interesting to see who they see as their leader. That to me says a lot.
Well, apparently Henderson gave a great speech before the French game, didn't he, to get them all fired up for it? So he's obviously got that leadership qualities that they all really respect and
he's done it everywhere, isn't he?
So.
Sunderland, he was captain young, went to Liverpool. He brought some brilliant days there post Gerrard. He certainly has it.
Yeah, I think potentially as a squad member in terms of playing, I think that might be a bit of a wasted opportunity where we need to be bringing other people in. But bring him in as a coach and like help him with the training and everything, then absolutely, I think that's the way to go forward with him. I think Ivan Toney potentially. I mean, he didn't really play at all, did he? Other than a little bit in the last game.
It's not a direction I'd want to go again.
No, then
Watkins, you could argue.
Watkins, yeah. I mean,
maybe got Euros in him.
Maybe, but he didn't look like Tuchel really had a lot of faith in him, did he?
And it looks like he's off to Fenerbahce as well.
Yeah,
with Mason Greenwood.
Is that right?
Well, he's already there. But yeah, I mean, I know it's a contentious one. Do you think there's ever any hope of him donning a England shirt?
Yeah, I know. It's a shame. He's got so much talent.
I'm not sitting here condoning anything that he's supposedly done, and I don't want to get into that.
Talent-wise,
if you just look at simply talent, do you think? Well, again, do you think the FA would allow it? I don't think they would. I think that's something they probably.
I don't know.
Make a stand up.
There should be a point where surely someone is forgiven at some point if they've said they're sorry and because otherwise, what, they're going to be punished for it for the whole. I mean, I haven't seen the video. Apparently, the videos are horrific. I've never seen it. I don't ever really want to see it. I know that it was with his girlfriend, which is now his wife, I believe, and they got kids. So I guess if she's forgiven him, maybe he's trying to change. He's been working on changing. Then there's got to come a time where there's got to be a chance for redemption, hasn't there? He can't just, like I said, potentially be punished for the rest of his career. I don't know. It is a real tough one, I guess.
It's certainly probably one for another podcast, maybe. It's in pure talent. You want your best players available, and I think in that number 9 role,
I was going to say, a lot. Yeah, life after Kane, he will be perfect, really.
But with the potential retirements, is it going to force us into the false 9 bit?
Well,
rather than a natural 9.
I think you could definitely go to a false 9. You could play Bellingham off as the highest of the players playing as a false 9, really. I know they tried it with Foden in one of the friendly games. It didn't quite work. Yeah, but if they properly worked on it, especially when you're playing a game, someone like Spain, keep the ball and outnumber your midfield. If you can match them up like that, then I would believe it would make your life a lot easier trying to, instead of being outnumbered. I think France felt, or you could see when France played Spain, that they got totally outnumbered, couldn't get the ball back, couldn't get the ball to their danger men, and they just controlled the game with and without the ball. I mean, To be fair, Spain, their pressing without the ball is brilliant as well, isn't it?
There's just, and that's how quickly they win it back,
But you're not,
and how
yeah, but
proficient they are in doing it.
yeah.
It's
But when
beautiful.
you keep the ball for so long, you've got that energy when you lose a ball to win the ball back. Likewise, if you're chasing the ball for so long, and when you get the ball, you're too tired to do anything with it. So Spain have got the balance absolutely spot on.
I think that's the only mild compliment I can pay Argentina is their work ethic off the ball, because they had
Yeah,
to,
yeah,
was remarkable. But
yeah, no,
yeah, that's as far as I can go with Argentina. Even the great King Messi, when he tried to get Cucurella sent off, that hurt me a lot. That was hard to
yeah,
watch. I was like,
yeah.
you're not that guy.
No,
Don't do it.
definitely, definitely. Just going to go on to some of the players that were left out of the squad. I just want you to tell me if you think they're going to get potentially got way back in or not. Odin,
Yes, but he needs to play more at Man City.
yeah,
He could be one. If Maresca don't fancy him, he maybe needs to look elsewhere.
yeah, no, definitely. He needs, he needs to find out that pretty soon. I think Maresca, the way Maresca likes to play, you would think that Foden would fit into his plans. Yeah, Palmer, surely you would think.
Chelsea, they didn't have a great season, did they? It was
Yeah,
it's a
yeah,
mess. Chelsea, they've just spent another 120 million, haven't they, today on Morgan Rogers, which in the inflated market, which I know we're going to talk about in a future pod, coming up very soon with all things transfers. But look, the guy's one of the most naturally talented footballers we have,
yeah,
kind of the
yeah,
network
definitely.
involved.
Yeah, Gibbs White.
I think with Gibbs White, he needs. I think for him, it's who he plays for. I think is the killer for
I was
him,
going to say
and
that.
which
Yeah,
is
yeah,
similar to Wharton. I'm not sitting there saying that's right, but you can be a big fish in a small pond sometimes. Listen, in the back end of his season was remarkable. He had a
he was
phenomenal
brilliant.
back
Yeah,
end, and actually his form probably was better than most of our midfielders going into the World Cup and got left
yeah,
out. But I do think he needs that big move. But then my question would be, why are these clubs not putting? Is it Marinakis? I mean, the guy is Greek mafia, isn't he? He's probably got a gun to his head in the change room saying you ain't going anywhere. But you do always, the question mark I have over him is those top six teams have been mooted: Villa, Tottenham, Arsenal, but no one's come in with the money yet.
yeah, yeah,
So, and again, when you look at Tottenham, when Eze didn't sign for them, he was the next best thing and almost like for like. I definitely think there's a player there. Listen, what he's
yeah.
done with the
But
teams he's been at.
I agree, mate.
Is he better than some of the players that we've probably been in the squad and we're
No,
talking
I
about?
would.
Maybe not.
No, exactly. Yeah, you would think. I know some people listening might disagree, but I would see Foden and Palmer in front of him, even
I
though
agree.
I think he's what he's a very, very good
I'd
player.
see Eze in front of him. I see Gordon in front of him. I see
Yeah,
Rogers in front of
yeah.
him. So
There's
it's, as
a
I
lot
said,
of players. Yeah,
it's a plethora of talent in that profile of player,
yeah,
that he would. I think he needs. I think he probably needs a top 4 team rather than just a top 6 team
yeah, yeah.
to go for it.
Walton.
Look. Wharton is the most progressive, naturally
Yeah,
forward-looking passer of the ball, which,
left-footed as well.
yeah, which is detrimental to him at times, because obviously he has a higher turnover, and his passing accuracy, if you go by data, is obviously a lot less than some of the midfielders. But when you look at progressive passes and
Yeah,
want to pass forward, he is up there with the best. His biggest, as I said, his biggest Achilles heel, I guess, has been his injuries. He has not been able to kind of last longer than 3 months without having quite a bad injury and be
uh,
out for a couple of
uh,
months. So
yeah. You were mentioning earlier that you might potentially be going Chelsea. To be
yeah,
honest, I think he needs to probably make that step up now, doesn't he,
I
into a
agree.
club like that,
I
to then
agree.
be
And
really seriously knocking on the England door.
100%. Look, to do what he's done, stepping up from Blackburn in the Championship and really
Yeah,
moving to Palace seamlessly. He
yeah,
looks
yeah,
like someone that's played Premier League all his career. He's rangy. He's tall. He seems to have this real knack again of being where he needs to be, which I know sounds really obvious, but with midfielders, you want them to be able to turn the ball over quickly
yeah,
and we get back on the front foot, and he seems to have mastered that really, really well. Again, he was pivotal in the key moments for Crystal Palace in their FA Cup run, in their Community
Oh, he's been
Shield
brilliant, man.
games, and
He's
their
been brilliant.
Conference League. So
In the
look,
final, he got man of the match, didn't he, for the conference?
yeah, if Chelsea get him, then the better they will be for it.
Yeah. Last one, Maguire. He's probably burnt his bridge, hasn't he, with Tuchel, do you
Yeah,
think?
I think, and if I'm honest, his age profile, he's probably he possibly wouldn't be about. Definitely not the next World Cup, maybe
No, but maybe
Euros,
for the Euros.
but I don't look. If Tuchel's still in charge, he ain't got open hell.
No.
Them two are dead in the waters.
Yeah.
He's done. But again, would I have taken him this World Cup? Well, you'd probably say do a better job than Chalobah. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe against Argentina, funnily enough, he'd have probably been the perfect foil
Yeah.
to sit
Yeah.
back and do what he did. But then would Dan Burn have got his moment? Who knows? I don't know. We'll never know. I think his race is run.
Yeah. So just looking at then finally some England stars for the future to finish on a real positive. Well, I'm going to mention some names and then you just tell me what ones of those you think for the Euros and potentially maybe going into the next World Cup. So obviously got Rio of the Liverpool player.
Yeah, phenomenal. As I said, when he played against Costa Rica, fearless. It was
you would
everything.
Think that he's going to be in the next World Cup squad if he's playing for Liverpool, wouldn't you?
I know we're only talking one game, and I have seen a few of his games for Liverpool, and he'll be better for those experiences. You know, he's still very young. He gets caught out a little bit physically. Obviously, he's 16. You know, you don't expect him to be mixing it with men and fully fledged Premier League players and international players on that yet. He's still got a lot of growing to do. But if you talk about a fearless winger, and we're talking out and out wingers. We're not talking this kind of, the Morgan Rogers style winger against Argentina, which is big physical profile. This is a small, diminutive, I'm going to, utilize my skill sets and turn you inside out type winger. A bit like what Nico Williams in many ways did when he came on against Argentina the other day. I think he is exciting. But again, our expectations when it comes to a 16-year-old, we've got to be realistic. But then you look at Yamal, you look at Messi, you look at Rooney. Why should age matter?
We look at the Spanish centre-back who's 19.
19. Played a couple of seasons. But again, I don't think you can have loads of 16, 17-year-olds in a squad.
No,
but you can certainly have a couple. And if they're at the level, crack on. Exciting.
Next one of your boys, Max Dowman.
Do you know what? We spoke about Rio. He's an out-and-out winger, right?
Yeah.
Max Dowman, what is he? I still don't think
I think he can play anywhere along the. I think he can play. I've only seen a little bit of him, and what I've seen of him looks amazing. But he looks like he can play wide left, wide right, and as a number 10.
Well, they've also spoken about he was playing for 21s as a 6 as well, which is remarkable.
Really?
Yeah, just literally quarterback style, old school Beckham, just pinging balls and equally playing as an 8, box to box with the energy.
I mean, he's got such great dribbling. I think you got to play him in more of an attacking position. I think
his ability to it's as near to Messi as I've seen from an English player in the sense of when he's dribbling, he just has this incredible equilibrium, unbelievable balance, and just has. He's got strength beyond his years, and you add the quality to it.
How old is he? Is he 16 now?
16. Yeah,
I mean, he was
16.
playing in the Arsenal first team at 15.
Scored when he was 15.
Think about that, 15.
And by the way,
not in a title-winning team.
Yeah, and not just playing. By the way, he wasn't making up numbers. Those players were playing to him. They were looking at him. When we played Everton, he was the go-to player. He came on effectively. Changed the narrative of our season when we were in a sticky patch. Came on, got the assist, beautiful crossing, and Gyökeres obviously scored. And then he ran the whole length of the pitch, counter-attacking, and slotted it home in front of the Emirates crowd as a 15-year-old is just. And then he went and did his GCSEs a couple of weeks later.
Yeah, I know.
Mental.
Frightening. Another one of your boys.
I'd take him, by the way.
Skelly. What's that?
I would take Dowman to the next Euros, by the way. I wouldn't do a Theo Walcott with him either.
No, definitely not.
I'd take it.
Oh, yeah. Within the next 2 years, you think he's going to be playing quite regularly. Maybe this next season coming up, he's going to be probably used a bit more, but not as much. But you could see when he's 17, the season after that,
I'll tell you now, he'll be this first 5 weeks of the season, first 5 games. Don't be surprised if he's starting out on the right for Arsenal. First game of the season against Coventry under the lights at the Emirates Friday
I
night.
mean,
Job done.
even as a Tottenham fan, to see that would be it's an amazing thing for such a
Yeah.
young kid, and to see so much talent and
And
the
like you
way
said,
he
being
plays as
around,
well. It's really exciting
and being around
for
a
England.
champions,
I mean,
yeah,
yeah,
and being around a championship winning team, and a Champions League final team. That's what a platform to start
yeah.
building on with those players.
The next one is one of the boys who was there before the tournament started, Alex Scott.
Yeah, very technically gifted player, isn't he?
Yeah, I like him a lot actually.
He was, yeah.
Yeah, you could see him in the Euros squad, couldn't you?
Yeah, he tore us apart at the Emirates. They beat us 2-1, and
Yeah, he scored a goal actually, didn't he?
Oh mate, a beautiful half volley, like dinked inside, top corner, gave Ryan no chance. Him and that Krupi Junior, and there was, to be fair, the whole team that day were very, very good. But Alex Scott is the heartbeat of that team. You know, when I'm hearing him mooted as a potential option at Arsenal, Man U, I'm not surprised. You know, his technical efficiency in the midfield is rare in many ways. But yeah, he looks like he's ready for the step up from Bournemouth. And I know you mentioned Lewis Skelly as well. Again, he's for a guy that was regarded as the next left back for England, then went out of recognition for Arsenal for 5-6 months to come back on his redemption tour at 19, and then start the Champions League final as a holding midfielder.
And I thought he did really well in that final.
He's so strong on the ball.
Yeah, he can carry the ball, can't he?
He can carry the ball. He can keep control of the ball. All these things that supposedly this English DNA that maybe someone's spoken about a little bit.
He can break the lines by carrying the ball, can't he?
Well, mate, the 4 players you just mentioned, Rio, diminutive, maybe not a ball retention player fully, because that's not what he's there for. Dowman can retain that ball.
Yeah.
Alex Scott can retain that ball for fun. Miles Lewis-Kelly can retain the ball for fun.
I know. So,
good foundations.
Yeah, definitely. And maybe a few more that maybe, I don't know if it'd be too early for the Euros. Maybe not. Maybe they could push, I guess. Make more an Archie Gray for Tottenham.
Where are you playing Archie Gray?
That's a good question. That is a very, very good question.
I think that's the Phil Neville link I would make with Archie Gray. A guy that is talented, a good footballer, but I think he's a bit like Miles Lewis-Kelly as well. You know, they need to get a position. It's great being this multifaceted player, and Archie Gray is a very gifted footballer. But I personally, I prefer him holding.
Yeah, I agree.
He's
definitely either a 6 or an 8. No, he's not a fullback. He's not quick enough in the modern game for me.
Mikey Moore, talk to me about him as well.
Yeah, I mean, he got Scotland's Young Player of the Year when he's been at Rangers for a season. From what I saw, the games that he played, he was getting bigger, he was getting stronger. You could tell that he was getting more comfortable, and he was really showcasing a lot of his dribbling abilities, passing. He's a creative player.
What is he positionally, would you say?
Again, he's probably, I know we've got loads of number 10s. He's probably best position as a number 10, but he played a lot of coming in off the left side for Rangers, coming in on his right foot. That I would say if he's not as a 10, then playing wide, not really out wide, but just dropping into spaces in the pockets on that side.
Will he be in De Zerbi's plans?
Do you know what? They should definitely have a look at him in pre-season. I think he's a player that De Zerbi would like. He's very, very technical. Whether it might be that he goes on loan for another season could be really beneficial for him. There's talks of, again, clubs in Germany that might be coming in for him. I think that would be a great move for him.
Such a good league.
If he had a year out in Germany playing in that league, I think, because he was in Scotland, which is a very physical league. I think once he got used to that, then he really showcased his ability and his talent.
And playing in front of big crowds, by the way.
Massive crowds, and they loved him around. They want him to go back, but I think if there's a potential to go to the German league, I think that would improve him even more, playing in, obviously, Europe. So maybe not. You just never know. I mean, it's 2 years, Euros, potentially the next World Cup might be something he could be looking at. Josh King at Fulham.
Looks a talented boy. Doesn't he? That goal against Chelsea that weren't given.
I know, what a shame.
He's a talented boy.
Yeah, I know he did, yeah.
But he's an half taking it. He's half grabbed it by the scruff of the neck. I mean, if Fulham are sensible, they'll be basing a lot of what Arbeloa is going to enjoy
Yeah,
him
you would
in
think
the
so.
10.
You would hope that he would be a big
He
part of his
just
plans
I just
moving
hope he
forward.
adds those, goals and assists, obviously the talent, the clear talent he has.
Yeah, and not one of your boys, Ethan Nawani. Do you
Ethan
think
and
he's gonna?
Nwaneri, yeah.
No one. Yeah,
Look, I think this World Cup and him coming back from a torrid spell. I mean, he got funny enough. Him and his family are Tottenham fans. Obviously, but him and his brothers just signed a professional contract when he turned 17. There was a bit of to do whether that was going to happen or not. Emerson Nwaneri, and it was potentially mooted that he was going to end up going to Tottenham. Arsenal have tied him down now, which tells me they've maybe sorted out whatever discrepancies there were with the dad, who's obviously the agent for both the boys. I think with Nwaneri, the World Cup is his blessing coming back, as I said, from a tough one with Marseille where we sent him out, funnily enough, to De Zerbi, and that was the whole reason he went on loan to Marseille. Nwaneri's never let Arsenal down. Nwaneri was our go-to player at the beginning of the season.
yeah. I've always,
Um,
when I've seen him, I've always liked him.
yeah, he's. I had no problem with him going out on loan when he did. You know, that was a big decision considering the squad, and we obviously got a few injuries. But it was the right move. I had no issue with it. It just didn't work out, which loans happen that way sometimes, you know. But I think he's got a really good opportunity, especially pre-season. I saw some photos today from their first sessions, and he looks fit and well, and you know that kind of year stronger. And again, sometimes sometimes negatives can be positive for young players' progressions. You know, a bit of adversity can realign actually what the game is all about. And when they've got their
Yeah,
opportunities, it's got to make them more hungry, mentally tougher. And we spoke about this kind of like loser mentality a little bit as an English football team sometimes. And he potentially look, he's torn it up for the 15s, the 17s, the 19s, the 21s. But I've also seen Harvey Elliott do that. And it didn't quite
mm.
work out for him. And he's another player that, you know, potentially if he has a
Yeah,
if
yeah,
Iraola
yeah.
fancies him,
Yeah, definitely. Bit of a
he could be
forgotten
in. And
man,
someone
isn't he,
who's again won the
unfortunately.
league. You know,
Yeah,
that can't be sniffed at. When players have won championships, however much they play in the championship, they've been part
but
of it.
Jurgen Klopp loved him, didn't he? Played him
Mate,
loads.
winners breed winners, right? And
Yeah,
you're absolutely right. And I think Nwaneri, look, I think he could have a season from nowhere and become a real
yeah,
stalwart
yeah.
in the
Definitely, he's
Arsenal
got that
squad,
ability.
or
Yeah,
it wouldn't shock me if he went out on another loan, which I equally wouldn't be, you know, abject to as an Arsenal fan. You look at what he did for Saliba. Everyone was like, "We've signed this guy for 30 odd million. We sent him out on loan, and we sent him out on loan again." And actually, our centre backs were crying out for a Saliba. But
yeah,
then look at the impact of a good loan. So look, I think he's a precocious talent. He's done it at all levels for England. He is England's under 21's go-to player, really, isn't he? He is
yeah, yeah,
regarded as
yeah.
the main man. So look, if all things fall into place, he could easily be in the England squad. But again, look at the players we've spoken about.
I
The
know there's
midfield
loads. There's
area
so many.
in
Yeah, our DNA is like really poor. But we got all these young players, and we're not even talking about Tyler Diblin. If he can have a good season at Everton, you got Tyree
yeah,
George, but Emil Heskey's son, who's just signed for German
out in
club, isn't
Germany.
he?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah,
I think it
what a
was it
great,
Cologne?
yeah, great
Yeah.
decision. I think that could
6
be.
mil. Well
Yeah,
guided again. Emil Heskey, he's got to have a bit of credit there,
yeah.
and the people around him. I think it's a great.
So yeah,
Aidan Heaven's another one I throw out there from a centre
yeah,
back
yeah,
perspective.
yeah, absolutely.
I didn't agree with why he left Arsenal. I'll be brutally honest. It was a bit of a similar to that Chido Obi financially. There was a bit of a man. You obviously offered him a bit of a bumper contract that
Well,
Arsenal weren't willing.
we've just lost a player to Man United.
That
S-
Tynan
Tynan,
Thompson,
yeah,
eight
yeah.
million.
8 million, yeah. And we've
Yeah,
lost a player to you as well. A few
boy,
ups and some. Yeah,
Elijah.
Elijah.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah, what's going on at Tottenham?
Mate, North
Losing all their
London's red, mate. You
players.
know this. They want to play. They want to play in red, clearly. They don't like the white shirt at Tottenham.
Right. So, all of you listening, what are your thoughts on England's overall tournament? Who do you think our best player was? Who do you think the breakout stars from the England team were? Who are the players that you think potentially it could be the end of their England international careers in terms of maybe not representing for the Euros or the next World Cup? And finally, who are the breakout stars that you think potentially could become part of the Euros and the next World Cup? We'd love to hear all your thoughts. Thanks for listening and goodbye.
Come on, England.
Come on, England.